Hey, David T.S. Wood here, and welcome to my Extra Mile. Our comment winner today is Jesse M. Jesse says, "Hi, Dave, I just love these shows. They're really helping me find my track and stay on track." Thank you, Jesse. Today's show is all about trust. I'm actually going to share a story of how I bought my boat. It's a 56-foot carver that I have down in the Caribbean with a complete stranger that I met on the plane. It's a great story, but it's really my philosophy about absolute trust and how trust can magnetize, it can attract and bring to you everything you want when we live in a world without fear. So enjoy the show, and don't forget, beep, 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 beep. And you know what, guys, push the notification button, because what I realize is some of you don't get the notifications. And unless I promote this on my Facebook page, some people I see by the numbers, people don't get it. So just push that notification and you'll be told as soon as there's a show. As you can tell, I'm out cross-country skiing, and I thought I'd talk to you. We'll definitely see you on the other side. Hey, David T.S. Wood here, and welcome to my Extra Mile. Here I am again, just driving up to the ski hill, and I love doing shows on this road. People keep complimenting on the views out of the window and the sunroof, and it's just a nice way to do a show. So, you know, what I thought I'd do is I thought I'd tell a story today, which involves one of my philosophies, which is 100% trust. Trusting 100% of the people 100% of the time. I know I've talked about this before, but I want to give you an example and actually share a story of where I implemented this. And I thought it may be fun just to listen to a story of where one of my philosophies. And I thought maybe I'd do that. Again, if you're interested in any kind of subjects, just please just leave in the comments, and I read everyone, I answer everyone, and I'll be happy to do shows specifically on different topics or stories you want to hear about. But also, you know, what I notice is when I post on Facebook, I get more people, more traction, which means it leads me to believe that a lot of you haven't pushed the notification button. So there's that little bell down below here. If you push that notification button, as soon as a new show hits, at least you'll know it's there and you can decide whether you want to watch it or not. So please go ahead and do that. Anyway, so I thought I'd tell you, I own a 56-foot boat. It's a carver down in Antigua. And a 56-foot boat. I'm a sailor. I'm a boater. In fact, somebody asked me the other day, and they talked about, you know, where are you happiest? And in water, on water, underwater, you know, above water, sailing, boating, scuba diving, swimming, it doesn't matter. So I just feel there's something about water in me. And I suppose I am a Cancer. Anyone who believes in the stars and all the horoscope, then you probably say, oh yeah, well, that's because you're a Cancer. So again, I'll go with that. I have no understanding of that myself, but I certainly don't have any disagreement with it. So let's talk about this boat. So I have a boat in Kelowna. It's a 36-foot Sea Ray, and I started thinking about the winters here, and we had a particularly long winter where I wasn't traveling, and I thought, yeah, do I really want to spend the whole winter in Canada? And as I wasn't traveling, so then I had an idea about buying a boat. So, you know, the way my ideas work are this: when I decide something, normally it happens in 24 hours. I don't spend a lot of time thinking. I have the idea, oh yeah, maybe I should buy a boat. So I started looking right away, and I started looking, and, you know, I know there's some philosophies, you know, if it flies or floats, rent it. You know, owning a boat can be expensive. But I thought about buying a boat that maybe I could work on doing coaching or masterminds. So when I first started looking, I started looking at quite a large boat. And I found one in Mexico, which was down in Los Cabos, and it was further south, in the Sea of Cortez, because I'd been down there with a friend of mine, Warren, and his wife, Arlene. And the Sea of Cortez was Jacques Cousteau, the famous, what do they call him? The guy, he's like David Attenborough, you know, he does all of these shows about the ocean. He's passed now, but he called the Sea of Cortez God's aquarium. And it really is like that. You know, we've been down there, you know, diving with bull sharks And then in the afternoon, swimming with whale sharks and scuba diving with seals. I mean, it's just a really beautiful place. So I thought, yeah, a perfect place to have a boat would be down there. Anyway, so I go down, and there's a very, very large boat. I think it was about a 72-foot boat. And I sort of talked myself into it. And I spoke to the guy who owns it. He's called the captain. And, for me, when I look at anything, when I look at, I can only tell how people live their life just by looking inside the window of their car, how their home is, how what their office is. It's very easy. And with a boat, it's very, very easy when you look at the corners to see how people look after things. If I'm buying something especially, I can tell by looking in the places that are not always obvious if people, take the time to really maintain something well. Anyway, so I flew down to Mexico. I got off, and it took an hour drive down to the place in Sea of Cortez. And I walked on the boat, and the deal was I was going to spend the night on the boat, and the next day we'd take it out. But I walked on the boat, and I was only on it for maybe 3 minutes before I knew that this definitely wasn't a boat I could buy. And I could just tell. I looked at the corners. It was obvious that, this thing, while it was big, it offered a lot of room. It was a beast, and it hadn't been looked after very well. And so I didn't even bother looking at it very much. I already knew. But, I got there quite late. And so I spent the night, and I got up early in the morning, and I went to the captain, and I said, hey, buddy, listen, I just want to tell you the truth. I'm not interested in going out on the boat today. I have no interest in buying this boat. And he was quite upset because he, obviously he invited the people out. He ordered food. And I just said, look, it's just not a boat I can buy. I'm sorry. So then I walk out the marina. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I see a couple of young kids sitting outside, and I say, hey, any chance either one of you has a car? Can you drive me back up to Los Carbos? And so one of them said, yeah, and I paid him the same as I paid the Uber driver, maybe a little less. I paid him cash. And look at the sunshine up here. Woo-hoo! Was this January the 10th, 11th, 12th, something like that? Anyway, and so I go up, and I start looking at boats up there, and, everything I'm looking at just has the same lack of attention to detail. And while I'm looking online, I see a boat, this Carver, that I end up buying in Antigua in the Caribbean. So I phone up, and I speak to the broker. His name's Mike. And I said, Mike, I'm interested in the boat. He said, I'm sorry, it's sold. I said, oh, what do you mean? You say it's sold? Do you mean sold? Because I see it advertised. He says, the guy has flown a mechanic down. He says he's going to buy it. They're just doing the survey on the boat right now. And the guy said, but this guy's serious. He's flown his own mechanic in. He's got, they've been on the boat for a couple of days. They're going through every square inch of the boat. I'm like, wow. I said, well, listen, I have this feeling about this boat. Is there any chance, when do they have to close by? He said, Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So this is like 4 days, something like that, maybe 5 days. And I said, well, I'm going to stay in Mexico, and I'll wait here. And as soon as you hear that if something happens with this deal, then what I'll do is maybe I'll show some sunshine in my face. I said, I'll fly down there. Anyway, so lo and behold, 9:30 a.m. on the Wednesday, I get a call saying, hey, guess what? I can't believe it. The guy's backed out. And I said, well, what happened? He says, Dave, this guy had sent oil samples up into the U.S. to special laboratories. And, he had the boat out of the water. He went with a hammer, and he tested the entire hull for delamination. He said, and he loves the boat. But then when he went to finalize his wife, they were going through a divorce. Apparently, they wouldn't release the funds, so he had no money. Now, apparently, this had happened twice to the owner of the boat. And so he was quite frustrated. I said, well, look, Mike, I'm on my way. It took me 17 hours to fly there because of the way I was down in Los Carbos. I had to come up into the U.S. I had to go across the country, go back down into Antigua. And it was in Jolly Harbor in Antigua. So I ended up almost missing my flight in Miami. And it's a 6-hour flight, 6.5-hour flight from Miami down to Antigua. And as I walk on the plane, I'm in first class, and I sit down next to this woman, and she's like, I'm sorry, she said, is there any chance you could change seats with my husband? Because, we'd like to sit together. I said, well, can I ask you a question first? She said, yeah. I said, how long have you been married? She's like, well, I can't remember. It's 32 years or something like that. It's quite a long time. And I said, well, do you really want to sit with him, or would you rather sit with me? And I'm joking. Of course, everyone's laughing. The rest of first class is listening. And anyway, I switched seats, and I get straight on the phone with the broker. And I said, Mike, I'm on my last leg. I'm definitely going to be there. I definitely want the boat. Obviously, I just need to see it. And anyway, so 6.5 hours later, we land, and the guy stands up in front of me. His name's Bud. And he says, are you going to go and see this boat? He used the name of the boat, which is quite an unusual name. I said, oh my God, how'd you know that? He said, well, I overheard you talking to your broker. He said, were you talking to Mike? I said, yeah. I said, why? He said, well, I've been on the boat twice. He says, I was going to buy it myself. He says, but it's gorgeous. I said, oh, whoa. I said, well, why didn't you buy it? He said, well, to be honest with you, I own a house there, and the dock is like a 42-foot dock, and this is a 56-foot boat. And so the idea of us owning a boat and not being able to use our own dock just made no economic sense. So we've been struggling because it's such a beautiful boat. I said, well, is it a beautiful boat? But he said, Dave, it's immaculate. He says, it's unbelievable. And he goes on. I said, well, give me your number, will you? I said, if I have any questions, can I call you? He said, yeah. So I take the number. Anyway, I go in, and I end up taking a taxi for an hour down to Jolly Harbor. And down there you can rent golf carts, but it's so busy, I can't find a golf cart anywhere. And the taxi driver says to me, he says, you know what? He says, why don't you let me go home, and I'll bring my father down later, and I'll lend you one of my cars. I have a car at home. I can just lend it to you. I said, what? I said, for sure, thanks. So this guy comes back with a car. So now I have a vehicle, and I'm in a little Airbnb. And I go down the next morning, and I take this boat out. And it's everything I heard. It was gorgeous, a 56-foot Carver. I'll put a picture in it. And it's got a Sea-Doo. The engines are immaculate. And it's like, oh my gosh, it really is beautiful. The family is gorgeous. And it's quite sad, actually. I really can't tell the story on this, but why they were selling was a legitimate story. And, it's just... I don't want to talk about it right now because I haven't got permission of the previous owners. But anyway, so I go out, and then I start to really think about it. I'm thinking about my personality style, which is very much in the moment. I'm not a putzer. I don't like putzing with things. I like maintaining things, but I don't want to putz on it. And I'm thinking, shit, this is a big boat to own, so far from home. It's going to be expensive. And it was a great deal because he'd had two people walk away. He dropped the price another $25,000, and it was already a great deal. So I go out that night. I go to bed that night, and this guy saying to me, the owner, his name's Daniel. He's like, Dave, he says, I need to know. I don't want to go through this again. He was frustrated, and I said, all right, give me 24 hours. Anyway, I'm in my little house, and in the end, I can't decide. I'm thinking, Jesus, do I really want this? It's just a lot of commitment. You should see how much snow there is. Holy crap. And so, I may have to turn this around for you. Wait a second. Wait a sec. Here we go. Look at this. It just started to get foggy up here. Look at that. Well, the side of the road's there. Anyway, I was up here in the middle of the week, and it wasn't like that at all. Anyway, so I decided to go out. It's midnight. I decided to go to a little bar and have a beer, and I'm really leaning towards not buying this boat. And so as I'm walking up to this little bar, this beautiful woman looks over and says, David. And I turn around. I have no idea who it is. She said, would you like to come for a drink? And I'm like, yeah, sure, thanks. She seemed really open, really kind. And I have no idea who it is. And I don't know how she knows me. And I walk around the corner, I see this guy from the plane. It was his wife. I only saw her for like 4 seconds, so I didn't recognize her at all. And he's there with their 2 children and one of the daughter's boyfriends. So there's 5 of them and me. And we just have a laugh. We laugh, and we have so much fun, a beautiful family. I tell him what's going on with the boat, and we don't discuss it too much. He just tells me how great it is again. And so I decide, I go to bed. It's like 2:30 in the morning. I promise to give them an answer. I wake up and I'm kind of stalling. Then I have this idea. So I text this guy, Bud, who I'm out on the plane, had a drink with that night. He's a dentist from Waterloo, Ontario. And I said, would you like to be partners in the boat? And he texted me back immediately. And he says, I don't really like, I'm not really into partnerships, never worked for me type of thing, right? It was very short. I texted him back and I said, well, you've never been partners with a guy like me. Anyway, a minute later, he says, all right, let's do it. So then we show up and I phoned Daniel and I said, look, we're going to buy the boat. And he has no idea that I've met Bud. But of course, he'd been on the boat twice looking to buy it. So then we show up there and we take the boat out and we do like a reconnaissance of the boat again. Now I'm there with Daniel and his wife, Marianne, who's beautiful, and myself. And I can see Daniel's confusion. He's out there with his wife and his son, Alex. And they're like, well, how do these two know each other? It's like, and they're too polite to ask at this point. So anyway, we take it out. We come home. I asked if I could sleep on the boat that night because I was leaving the next morning to come back to Canada. Anyway, so that night I had a bit of a problem turning the air conditioner on. So I texted the owner, Daniel. I said, any chance you can come down and help me? Oh, I said, can you answer me a question about the air conditioning? So suddenly he just shows up. And then we sit on the back of the boat and we chat for maybe 40 minutes. And he tells me his story, which is beautiful. And I tell him how I met Bud. He's a stranger. I just met him on the plane. And he's like, what? Anyway, so Bud is just like me, in the sense of how he treats, we've been partners now for almost a year, I suppose. Of course, so we're flying down. Actually, I just got off the phone with him. Right, the reason I'm telling this story is I just talked to him on the phone. We're coordinating a trip together down there for a month. And but what's beautiful is, how easy it's been. We had to change the name of the boat. And he had an idea, and I said, well, I'll leave it up to you, Marianne. You decide. I said, but I did a competition on my Instagram and Facebook, and I got 800 suggestions, and I chose two. One I put on my boat in Kelowna, which is Good Vibrations, and the second, which came from my friend Beth, actually, which is alchemy. And I told him about the word alchemy. So the next morning we meet up, and just before I'm leaving town, and they look at me and they said, hey, we decided on the name of the boat. And I said, oh, great. What is it? Alchemy. That's how easy it's been, and the whole financial thing's been easy. The son of the owner, who's this beautiful young man, he's 17, Alex, he's been looking after managing the boat. So we have a guy down there who's meticulous. The spreadsheets are phenomenal. He's, he knows everyone there. His dad's obviously, he's a sea captain who's brilliant. The reason the boat was in such good condition. So he's helping him as well. So we got this sort of added value of having, Dad there as well, which is unexpected and we're very grateful for. And here we have this new adventure. But coming back to the point of the story, which is absolute trust, I had a deep sense when I met Bud who he was, and it was very, very easy for me to tell by how he treated his wife, how they looked at each other, how kind he was to his children. All these things gave me an immediate read on them as people. And so I didn't have any doubts, not one doubt. And it's proven itself to be, now we haven't been down there together on the boat, but I know what it's going to be like. I can feel it already. And because he's so easygoing and, and that's 100% trust. And now we have half the expenses, half the cost. We end up buying a rib as well, which is it's like a high-powered speedboat, like on an inflatable, so that we have two boats, really. We bought that from the son. It's in immaculate condition, so that if we're down there together and, one of us wants privacy, we can take the rib out. We can take the big boat out and then take the rib around the island. It does like 70 kilometers an hour. So it's just been this wonderful story, but this is kind of how I approach life. And so many people are so concerned and worried. And at the end of the day, I thought about, if everything goes wrong, what do I lose? Nothing really. It's just money. I understand a lot of people can't afford to lose money, but I never believed that would happen. But I'm actually at the ski lodge right now, so I'm going to end this. But I wanted to share the story as an inspiration to just sort of think about how much time we spend or people spend distrusting or overly protecting or wanting everything to be, to be safe and all this kind of energy. I don't have that energy, and consequently, it's the key. Consequently, there's a lot of excuse me, a lot of beautiful things happen on a regular basis. And so there you go, it's opening. And so, that's really the story. And I trust 100% of people 100% of the time. And if they prove me wrong, that's fine. But I don't use that as a guide for the rest of the world. But, I can't trust people. I just realize that, occasionally there's people that prove themselves to not be, I'll turn the light on, to not be trustworthy, right? And that does happen. I love it when you find a spot right by where you live. And that does happen. But why would I label the rest of the world, why would I label the rest of the world with that distrust when I can walk through life and just continue to trust people and situations? And where that comes from, the root of that is self-trust. Look at that, I'll leave that, is self-trust. I trust myself to handle any situation, whether it's good or bad, and so if we navigated this, and I mean, the boat sinks, it's hit by a hurricane, whatever. I have this story and this brand new friendship, which I know is going to be beautiful. I mean, I'm really excited to spend time with this family. And it's funny because I'm at the ski lodge here and I have a partner in the ski lodge, my lawyer, Richard, and it's the same thing. It's just easy. 100% trust is just flowing with life, by sharing these toys, the expense of the toys makes it easier. So even on this, when I go away for a month, I don't have to think about it. Richard's here, right? I got away from the boat. Bud's there. He'll use the boat more because he has a house down there. And I don't mind. I don't count. And it's like here, I said to Richard, if we're going to have a ski lodge together, then we want to be out in a situation where we can be there at the same time, where we can share something and not, oh, it's your weekend, my weekend. I don't want to live like that. I want to be able to just show up. And like I am right now, they're already here. She's making dinner tonight, lovely Lila. But that's how easy life can be. I'm just getting ready. So anyway, that's it. That's my story. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll definitely see you on the other side. Hey, don't forget, subscribe, push that bell, and join me on Instagram and Facebook at David T.S. Wood. Bye.